everyone. Once again, I'm super honored to be working with the Amstelveen Toastmasters Club to present to you this evaluation workshop. Just a little bit about me. I have been in Toastmasters for 4 years. I'm almost 4 years. I'm part of Fusion Toastmasters Amsterdam, where I'm super honored to currently act as the president of the club. And I've been on the receiving end of countless evaluations, and I've also given quite a few evaluations myself. So I really hope that by the end of this workshop, you will have a good idea on how to give an effective evaluation, but also that you will take some time to reflect on the importance of evaluation. And before I start, I just wanted to give you 2 opposing short experiences. One of them is mine, and one of them is of a club member. And I'm hoping that this will highlight a little bit the importance of evaluations and the importance of this workshop before I get into the agenda. So the first experience is my own, the first time that I received an evaluation, a speech evaluation. It was my icebreaker speech, so the first speech that I was giving. I was extremely nervous. I remember I do this thing when I'm very nervous where I pace up and down. I like to call it the cage tiger. And I remember getting off stage and feeling so disappointed with my performance. I felt like I didn't manage to get the message across, and I was so frustrated. And so when my evaluator went on the stage, I was terrified to hear what she had to say. But to my surprise, she was so encouraging to me. She started off by telling me that she was very proud that I got on the stage, that I should be proud of myself as well. And she gave me some really useful tips and tricks that I could follow. She taught me that I should, instead of changing my natural style, which is moving up and down, I should try and be more intentional with my movements. And this is something that I've taken with me throughout my entire Toastmasters journey. And after that evaluation, I felt encouraged, I felt excited, and I felt really proud of my performance. And I had a very actionable thing to take with me for the next speech. In contrast, I want to give you an experience from someone from our club this year who shared with me that because of an evaluation, they stopped going to Toastmasters. And this was something that we had to really, as a club, take a step back and think about how we're handling evaluations, because it stopped this person from attending. I reached out to him after I hadn't seen him for about 3 months, and he told me, for the sake of it, let's call him Tom. Tom told me that the last time he got on stage, he was giving a speech after not being on the stage for over 6 months. He was very nervous, and his goal was just to get on the stage and shake off the cobwebs. There's a little noise. Is everybody hearing this noise?
Bit of, I don't know, beeping sound, if you mean?
No,
Beeping sound.
for me,
Oh,
no.
sorry.
No.
Sorry,
Nothing for me either.
Nothing should be in my background. Sorry,
No.
David. Okay.
Even
okay.
I can't hear anything.
Okay, thanks. So he got on the stage, he was trying to shake off the cobwebs, and he gave a short story about how he adopted his dog, who was a rescue. He shared his story, and he was quite nervous, it was clear. And he told me that when his evaluator got on the stage, the first thing that he said to him was that he should be disappointed in himself at his performance, that he felt that Tom was not prepared and that Tom didn't take it seriously enough, and that he was taking the spot of someone else. This caused Tom to completely stop coming to Toastmasters and to give up all of the hard work that he had already put in to 2 years of his journey. When I spoke to the evaluator that gave him that feedback, to provide feedback to him, he said that he felt that he was just giving him tough love because he wanted him to grow. But that delivery just didn't land. and we ended up losing a member who was very valued to our community. And so what am I trying to say? An evaluation can be the difference between someone continuing their Toastmasters career, growing further, or somebody completely giving up and losing confidence in themselves. And so I hope that this illustrated the importance of this, but also you might ask yourself, how can I give a good evaluation that will encourage someone, but that is also able to give someone areas for improvement? This is what we're going to be focusing on today in the workshop. So as you see in the agenda, we're going to cover a number of points. We will be talking about Toastmasters evaluations in general, and then I'll give you some guiding principles to frame how you think about evaluations. Then we're going to talk about the importance of having a balance between positive feedback and constructive criticism in order to help speakers grow. I will give you a method which you can always use to make sure that you're striking that balance correctly. Then I will hand the floor over to Jenny Khan, who will be sharing with you how to handle challenging evaluations and sharing her experience that she had recently at an evaluation contest where she did very, very well. And then after all of that, we will have a Q&A. So I encourage you, if you have questions, please pop them in the chat and we will be handling them towards the end. All right, next slide. Let me just pop in my charger. All right, so Toastmasters evaluations. There are two different types of evaluations and two slots for evaluations in Toastmasters meetings. The first one is speaker evaluations, where there's a dedicated section for each speaker who got on the stage to receive an evaluation from an evaluator. This happens at the evaluation section, which typically happens after the speeches, but not always. There are some clubs, for example, at our club, we've started doing the evaluations after the break in the second half of the meeting, and after speeches, we do table topics. But either way, they will always be in a dedicated section of the meeting. A speaker evaluation is 2 to 3 minutes long and is also the subject of a contest. So as you know, we have every year a contest which takes place once or twice, but one official contest. And evaluation contests are an official category of Toastmasters. And if you want to know more about the contest, I encourage you to stay till the end, hear Jenny Khan's experience, but also you can always refer online to evaluation contest guidelines by Toastmasters International. So that's speaker evaluations. General evaluations are evaluations of the meeting, and this is performed by the general evaluator. If you notice in the beginning of the meeting, the Toastmaster of the evening will call up what they call the tag team, which is the general, the grammarian, the counter, the timer, and the general evaluator will also come to the stage. The general evaluator evaluates the tag team, they evaluate the evaluators, they evaluate the general impression of the meeting itself, but they do not evaluate the speakers because the speakers are evaluated by the evaluators. So think of the general evaluator as the person who evaluates everything else except the speakers, apologies. The general evaluation happens typically at the end of the meeting after the report that is given by the tag team. And it is generally longer than a speech evaluation. In most clubs, it's 5 minutes. In other clubs, it's different times, but usually longer than the 2 to 3 minute evaluation by a speaker evaluator. Today, we're going to be focusing on speech evaluations as a topic. So I encourage you, if you have curiosities or questions about how to be a general evaluator, I recommend that you reach out to MJ. I heard that there might be a future event or workshop on general evaluations specifically. Should the GE also give feedback to evaluators? Yes, sorry, I will just take that now. Yes, so the general evaluator should give feedback to the evaluators, to the tag team, and comment on the general atmosphere of the meeting, but not evaluate the speakers, because that is the role of the evaluator, the speech evaluator. So this workshop will focus on the speech evaluators, but I just wanted to give you a little bit of context. Although we are not going to be focusing on the general evaluator role, a lot of the techniques that I will be sharing with you on how to evaluate a speech can also be used to evaluate the meeting or evaluate the roles. But in order to stick to time, we'll focus mostly on the speech evaluations. All right, next slide. Okay, why do speech evaluations matter so much? So as you know, Toastmasters is an organization that is centered around teaching two central skills. One of them is public speaking. What is the other?
Leadership.
Very good. Very good. Very good. Gold star. So leadership and public speaking have something in common. They require feedback in order for growth. And that is the reality with a lot of the things that we do in our lives, but especially in relation to public speaking and leadership, because when we're leading or when we're speaking, it's not just us. There is an audience. There are people that are involved. And so we need to constantly receive that feedback in order to grow. And the main reason is that we want to give value and we want to deliver value. So the main thing that you want to think about when you're evaluating a speaker is giving them value. In 3 minutes, they need to receive that value from you. They need to be able to know exactly what they need to do to grow. What is it that they need to do in their next speech? They also need to get encouragement from you to build their confidence, because that is how you grow as a person and that is how you get validation. I remember when I was young, my first boyfriend, he was a software developer, but he loved to write short stories. And 2 years into the relationship, he first showed me his notebook where he wrote short stories. And I asked him, why did it take you so long to show it to me? And they were very good stories. Why did it take you so long to show it to me? And why don't you share this with the world? And he told me that the first time that he read a short story, he was 10 years old and his parents burst out laughing at him. And it affected him so much that to this day, he has never shared a short story with anyone except me. I was really, really flattered. But as you can see, the way in which we give feedback can be the difference between somebody continuing to grow and giving them confidence and completely taking that away.
Is it just me and Naomi's gone suddenly?
Evaluations.
No, she's gone. Yeah.
No,
she's
he's
back.
Okay, there we go.
Yeah.
You're back now.
Okay, sorry, I don't know what happened. What happens when you give strong evaluations to speakers is that this helps the general club to grow, because evaluations are not just important for the speaker, they're also important for the audience. Because once you start attending Toastmasters meetings, you're not always going to have the opportunity to speak, but you always have the opportunity to listen to feedback. And if you pay attention, you will always be able to learn something at every single meeting. So a good evaluation helps the speaker grow, but also helps the club to grow. Also, giving evaluations has a real-world application outside of Toastmasters. If you think about most of your careers or things that you do outside of Toastmasters, it is such a crucial part, for example, of a lot of corporate structures or companies, a yearly review, that you have your manager and your manager sits and tells you what are the things that you did well and what are the things you can improve. If you're lucky, you get a manager that knows how to give solid feedback and who encourages you and gives you actionable feedback. But if you're unlucky, you will find someone who doesn't give you proper feedback or who discourages you. So this is something that these are skills we learn in Toastmasters, but that we have to take out there into the real world in order to help people grow. It is an effective and essential part of leadership. Next slide, please. All right, what are some evaluation myths that we can debunk? The first one is that evaluations are gifts and not judgment. We all can think of a teacher or a manager or a friend or parents who you ask them for feedback, and or if you can't think of a person, then you're very lucky. I can think of a number who you ask them for feedback, and it's almost like they're coming at you like a judge, very serious and giving you absolutely nothing positive, and it's like they are the exemplary, they are the ones that are looking down at you and just giving you directions. But in reality, evaluations are a gift to the person. They are an opportunity to deliver them value. There's always an opportunity to give someone encouragement, and there is a very special way that you can give someone a tip to improve without making them feel judged. This is $1 million quality that will take you to the next level in your Toastmasters journey, but also in the rest of your life. The second, you need to evaluate the speech and not the speaker. This is an essential tool that can take an evaluation from something discouraging to encouraging. When you're evaluating a speaker, if you tell them that they are a failure, or that they should be disappointed, or that they did not perform properly, that is going to immediately make them feel defensive. Because when we point a finger at someone, that immediately raises people's guards. What we need to focus on is the speech, because in the words of the world champion of public speaking, Sabyasachi Sengupta, he said when he won and he was giving his speech, he said, "There's no such thing as a best speaker. There is a best speech." In order for you to be effective, you need to be able to give a speech in a compelling way and almost leave yourself a little bit to the side and give that performance in an authentic way. So it's really important to not use you language, but rather to focus on the speech itself and only evaluate the speech. The third, although evaluations are subjective, they are based on guiding principles. So it's a myth that evaluations are just an opportunity for you to subjectively say how you feel. No, there is a framework in Toastmasters that you can follow. And I wonder how many of you know that for every evaluation that you give, there is actually a form, an evaluation form on the Toastmasters International website that you can use. What does this mean? As you know, every speech is part of a pathway journey. So when you are evaluating someone, they have a specific purpose that they want to, oh, sorry, just 2 seconds. Yes, sorry, apologies. So there's a pathway and there's a project that they're trying to complete, whether it's storytelling or body language. And there is a form that will give you an outline of the things that you need to evaluate. So also keep that in mind. When you're evaluating a speech, you shouldn't just evaluate the entirety of the speech. You can give some comments, but try to focus on the specific pathway and the specific project that the speaker is working on in that particular speech. So if their pathway project is about vocal variety, make sure that you give them feedback on the vocal variety and then touch on a few other elements. The fourth, a lot of people think that it's just the written evaluation that matters, but a verbal evaluation that matters at the meeting. But a written evaluation is just as important, because we remember what people say, but it's so much more effective and handy when we have something written that we can refer to later. I have a collection of written feedback from people in my club from 4 years ago to now. And when I was preparing for contests, or recently I gave a presentation at work, I really wanted to have easy access to this material. So do think about, first of all, if you are an evaluator, printing the form, filling it out, and giving it to the speaker after the meeting. Or if you are part of the audience, write down your feedback and give it to the speaker, because it is very, very valuable for them for the future. Next slide. All right, guiding principles. So here's a couple of things that you can or should think about when you are going into an evaluation. What to do. Do engage with the speaker ahead of time. So this is, here we're not talking about a competition, a contest, because in a contest you can't do that. Jenny Khan will explain a little bit more about the evaluation contest format. But if you are going to give evaluation to someone, evaluations are personal because speeches are personal. So even though somebody has objectively a pathway project, they also may have other small aspects that they would want you to look at. So we would encourage that you reach out to the speaker beforehand, send a WhatsApp message before the meeting, for example, say, hey, I'm evaluating you. Is there something specific you want me to look at, or can you pass me on the evaluation form? And also build that connection, because we are much better at receiving feedback from people that we know or have connected to before, rather than a blank canvas or a person that we don't know. The second, use the pathway evaluation form. This is especially useful if you're still a beginner evaluator. It will really help you to look at more holistically the way that you provide feedback. The third, rather than using, do use I, me, and my statements when you are giving personal feedback. So what I saw towards the end of your speech was, what stood out for me in your opening was, my curiosity peaked when you. So using I, me, and my, and also you. Why? Because in this situation, there's you can find the evaluation resource. Yeah, there's you and there's the speaker, and you need to build a relationship from the stage with the speaker. So do speak about yourself and your experience, but also relate personally to the speaker. So I would say even you can use the speaker's name. It's even better than you. Address the person in the beginning. Hey, Tom, I loved your speech. My curiosity peaked when Tom or when you. It's really important. Although you are going to focus on the speaker, however, do address the audience, because as we said in the beginning, an evaluation is not just about the speaker. It's also for the club. The club can gather a lot, and there's also an audience there. So you don't want it to be like there's no one else in the room, because there are people there. You want to find a balance between addressing the speaker and also taking a step back. So for example, if you open your evaluation and say, hey, Tom, I loved your speech. It was really, really effective. My curiosity peaked when you started screaming in the beginning of the speech. And then you turn to the audience and say, you'll notice that Tom used this technique of vocal variety. He raised his voice, and it really it really made us curious. So Tom, you did really, really well. You want to go in and out, and you want to mention what they did, but also give that back to the audience as well and address them. And the last one, what you want to do and what is so important is be specific in your feedback and demonstrate improvement points. It is a major pet peeve of mine when people say, or when an evaluator tells a speaker, oh, you should have done this better, or you could have done that better, but they don't actually tell them how they could have made it better. So, for example, if you're going to comment on the speaker's structure, give them a structure of how they could have improved it. And it's also a good challenge for you to think about how you would have done it better if it was you, and it gives them something to take away. All right, next slide. Don'ts. Okay. So do not give an insincere compliment. Train yourself, even though you should always give praise, you should always be encouraging. Train yourself to find at least one positive thing that you sincerely think a speaker has done. Once I had a conversation with an evaluator from our club, and I said, it's insane, you didn't mention one positive thing the speaker did. And they said, well, to be honest, for me, the speech was a disaster. I couldn't find one positive thing. I think that is extremely harsh. If you can't think of anything else, just say, I'm very proud of you for getting on the stage. It's not an easy thing for getting on the stage. You are so brave and so courageous for getting on the stage. That is one thing you can always mention, but don't lie and say that you liked something when you didn't, which is true, exactly, it's true. But because if you do, and the speaker then asks you to elaborate, you won't have anything to say. Next, avoid directive words like should, must, or need to. You and I are not authorities on public speaking. And I will repeat that again. You and I, as evaluators, are not judges and authorities on public speaking. Although we can have an experienced view on how to give a speech, using words like should or must or need to eliminates certain situations where these things might be positive. So for example, if you say you shouldn't pace up and down during a speech, that might be incorrect. There may be situations where you do need to pace up and down. You can say, I would encourage you in this context not to do this. Or if you say you must always have a call to action, that's not true. You will notice that coming up in spring, there is a tall tales competition. In tall tales, there doesn't need to be a call to action necessarily. So try to avoid general language, because there may be situations that you're not thinking about where the speaker should or can do something. The third, manage your expectations. Speaker level matters. So you should always have a chat with the speaker in order to understand what they are trying to accomplish with the speech. So to take you back to the first story that I told you, where Tom, the guy from our club, stopped coming to our club because of harsh feedback he received. The evaluator told him that he should be disappointed, and he felt that that speech would never land in a boardroom. Whereas Tom's goal was just to get on the stage and to dust off those cobwebs. So make sure that you have a conversation with the speaker and that you don't misunderstand what they're trying to do on the stage. And the last one, before we go into our second section, don't be overly positive and don't be overly negative. Balance is key to a great evaluation, and I'm going to be sharing about that next. Giving balanced feedback. This is going to be the key to giving a good evaluation. What is balanced feedback? Balanced feedback equally weighs strengths, so sharing with the speaker what they did right and encouraging them, but also giving areas for improvement. And there are always both. And as an evaluator, you can stretch yourself and work that muscle by always finding something that the person did right that you can encourage them and something that they should improve. There is no perfect speech, and there is also no imperfect, completely imperfect disaster speech. There is always something positive and something that people can improve. The way that you provide it is by being motivational and actionable, which are two very big and vague terms. So I know I'm not saying much there, but I do have a technique that you can always use to make sure that you're giving balanced feedback. And this technique is called the sandwich method. There are many different ways that you can do an evaluation. I have heard people using the diamond technique, where they talk about the cut, meaning the vocal and the shape. And I have seen people take the theme of the day and give feedback based on that. Whatever technique you use, whatever way that you provide the feedback, you can always incorporate the sandwich method into that. What is the sandwich method? Next slide. The sandwich method is a method where you open your evaluation with praise, so praising the speaker for what they've done, then you provide constructive feedback, and then you give encouragement. This is a really popular and effective structure that is also based on research. And this research shows that bad is usually stronger than good in people's minds, meaning that people will remember something negative way more than they'll remember something positive. So if you manage to sandwich constructive feedback between praise and encouragement, it means that people will still remember what they need to improve, but it's also cushioned between a lot of encouragement and praise, which will keep them coming back and make them excited for their next speech. So I will take you through quickly the 3 different layers and give you some tips and tricks on what you can use. So next slide. So praise. In this, you want to be sincere and specific, as we said before. For example, I loved your powerful opening hook. You demonstrated effective vocal variety when you, so be specific and be sincere here. Why does it work? It builds rapport with the speaker, and it also helps them to open up for the areas of improvement part. Next, the constructive feedback. So as we said, we want to focus on the technique and not the person. So for example, to strengthen your message further, I would encourage you to consider consolidating your message into 3 parts. Or I recommend using a pause after your opening statement to maximize impact. In the first one, we're talking about structure. So if you say, I think you should work on your structure, rather than saying that, you want to say, to further strengthen your message, consider doing this. And to make it even better, you can tell them what those 3 points would be, how you would do it. And in the second one, if you're talking about impact, you can say, in order to have more impact, have a pause after the opening statement. See how specific that is. That's something that they can really take for the next time. This also will challenge you as an evaluator to dig deep and find ways to demonstrate your feedback. Next slide. And encouragement. So in an evaluation, the summary is super, super important. And the summary is where you give the praise, you remind the constructive feedback, but you also make sure you give encouragement and make them excited to do their next speech. So an example would be, you talked about the praise, you talked about the areas of improvement, and you say, overall, Tom, your passion really showed through, and I loved your vocal variety. So reminding about the praise. Then areas of improvement, keep practicing your pauses, and then encouragement. And I look forward to your next fantastic presentation. So a summary can even be 1 sentence, but the main aim is to have a clear call to action, but also motivate the speaker to want to speak next time. And even though you do all of these things, you may still have challenges giving evaluations. And I will now pass it on to Jenny Khan to share some of her experiences giving challenging evaluations and how she worked through those. And then I will take your questions at the end.
Thank you, Naomi. I think this was a fantastic breakdown of how to give great quality evaluations, even I'm still learning, and I learned a lot from you. So really kudos to Naomi and also MJ, Mustika, and Judy for organizing this. And indeed, we have now arrived at the section where we are talking about challenging evaluations. Now, what are challenging evaluations? It means actually evaluations in the context of a contest. Now, I've had the luck that I could take part of the in the contest, and I would like to share with you my personal experience. And I think this is also the beauty why we have set up this evaluation call this way, because even in this call, you will see how different people will evaluate with a different kind of flavor, and they're all equally beautiful, because that's how we come. And it's exactly this diversity that's making basically all the evaluations you will give or get so enriching, because everyone will pick on different things, and what I will be telling you will be based on how I perceive the world and how I actually process information. So this is what you're seeing, and I'm going to actually share with you my experience at what happened at the area contest, which happened, I believe, 12th of October. And this is no joke. So during the area contest, the context of evaluation is different. So what is happening is, yes, you're going to compete against other participants. And now it's not only giving good feedback and a good evaluation, but also you are being compared against other participants. And I've used this illustration, and this is really what happened the last time. As participants, we were asked to actually go to a side kitchen. And in the side kitchen, we got 5 minutes to write down our evaluation for the surprise speaker. And then you have to one by one come back, but also you're not able to keep your notes. So it's really in a high pressure environment. And also for me, you will actually get overwhelmed by nerves. And whilst I was delivering my evaluation, I kept thinking, do I actually make sense? So I just want to tell you, if you're in a meeting and in a normal evaluation situation, actually that's super relaxed. And that's where you also can take time to digest. But luckily, apparently, I did make sense, and I was very happy to get the second place. So let's go to this next slide, where I will share more what the difference is actually between an in-meeting evaluation and a contest evaluation. So now what are the major differences? In a meeting evaluation, you are most of the time doing it or getting it within your own club environment. Most of the time, you already know the speaker and you know the speech contest, because you can jump into Easy Speak, you can see the title, and we always encourage the evaluators to reach out to the speaker and do a quick check-in, like, hey, MJ, so you're giving your third speech in your pathway Persuasive Influence. What is your speech title, and what would you like me to look at? So this is already building the rapport Naomi was mentioning already. It just creates a safe space between you and the speaker. And in the meeting, whilst you're listening to the speaker, that's already your time to actually process the speech. And most of the time, because there are multiple speeches and multiple evaluators, you always have some time. I think approximately you have 50 minutes of time to write down your notes, and to actually, in your mind, in your head, formulate and structure the evaluation you would like to give back. Most importantly, there's no competition. You're not there to compete against other evaluators. No, you're there to really give your feedback back to the speaker. And there's always space to discuss afterwards, right? If there are things you missed out, you can go to the speaker afterwards and you can have a discussion. And the goal is give clear, helpful, and constructive feedback. And Naomi gave us a wonderful breakdown of that. Now, within a contest evaluation, it's across clubs and areas. And here's the difference. The speaker is always a surprise speaker. Up until the last moment, evaluators, the contest participants, they don't know who the speaker is and what the speech will be about. So there is actually quite some excitement. And you only have 5 minutes to prepare. So once the surprise speaker has delivered its speech, The contest sergeant at arms will invite the participants to go to a separate space, and you get 5 minutes to write down your notes. And one by one, the participants are invited back to the big room to give back their evaluation. And the notes are being removed because they want to create a level playing ground between the first participant and the last one. Otherwise, the last participant will get more time to look at the notes, and that wouldn't be fair. It is in a competitive environment. And yes, the goals are still the same. Be clear, helpful, give constructive feedback, but also it's in a competition environment, and it's also your role to mirror the audience. But I will come back to that later. So the next slide, please. I hope me explaining you about also the excitement around contest is also doesn't scare you, because it's actually also wonderful. So why should you participate, right? It's to stretch and challenge yourself. Step outside your comfort zone, train this muscle to get exposed to a different environment beyond your own club members. So you will learn to handle time pressure. Yeah, it's a pressure cooker, but also you can translate this also into your real life experience. Imagine you're in an important company all hands or meeting, and suddenly you're being asked to give your opinion on the new strategy. That's exactly the same muscle. So if you're able to think quick on your feet, that's actually also a great way to handle the pressure in these kind of corporate or important high stakes environments. All eyes on you. So get comfortable with being uncomfortable. So the challenges is remember your evaluation content and deliver clear, speaker focus, but also act as a mirror for the audience. And here's the funny psychological trick. It's not about competing. It's about learning, gaining experience, and still having fun. But it's still about competition. It's this funny spiritual practice. So let's go to the next slide. What I would love to do here, as I just shared with you at the start of my part, evaluations comes with all the different evaluators, right? I just want to share with you what my style is of evaluation, because then you will get to understand, like, hey, we can all have our own way of evaluating. There's not one golden template we should all fit in, but we can all have our own way of evaluating, and that's the richness we are bringing to each other. I like to say, like, when I evaluate, I tend to listen with all my senses. So I'm listening with my entire being. I try to be really switched on entirely, and listening even with my body, right? So what do I hear? Is there a clear story with structure being told? What do I see? What am I really seeing in the speaker? How's the posture, body language of the speaker? And very important, what do I feel? Does the story resonate with me? Does it touch me? And what is the message I'm hearing? Is the message clear? Is it easy for me to comprehend? And what is the intention? Because if you're really listening with your entire being, you will, most of the time, you will actually also capture the intention of the speaker. So even if you're hearing a speech that's maybe not perfect, you can always praise the intention of the speaker. And that's actually also how you can handle speeches that are not always perfect, but you can always say, like, hey, oh, I love how you intended to convey this message. So this is a way to use the sandwich method. And authenticity is, have I learned something genuine about the speaker? Because what you always would love is authenticity, that someone shares something that is true to his or her person, right? So write down the highlights of the speech that resonated with you, the things you found beautiful. If someone is very gifted in language, also highlight that, the insight you got, and the things that can be improved, right? And have these building blocks ready to build your evaluation. So next slide. Yes, so what Naomi said perfectly is also the sandwich method. Always start with the praise. For instance, if someone has a very genuine quality, say, oh, I love how genuine you are in your speech. And start with the things you really like. And in the middle, the things that can be improved. And you close with a closing summary. Like what Naomi said, next time, if you can work on building your structure and having more pauses, it will bring your speech to the next level. It's very encouraging to hear. And what I said about the mirror, a strong evaluation is a mirror, not just for the speaker, but for the audience. And what do I mean with that? Because most of the time, if you're together in a room and you listen to a speech, something happens in the collective. Some things most of the people will actually agree with. And if you as an evaluator is articulating that, you're mirroring back what the room feels. So people will start to nod like, indeed. So this is also creating like a collective resonance. And it's actually helping the room to understand like, okay, wow. So what I feel is actually also what the evaluator is feeling. So you're learning together. So that's the mirroring effect. The next slide. And now we all start with the sandwich method, but like Naomi said, there are also some different ways to evaluate. And just quickly, because I'm mindful of the time, when you are getting more and more comfortable, there are actually some methods you can use. For instance, the acronym, very widely used, and I've seen it with very advanced evaluators who will use acronyms to build to make it memorable. So the acronym refers to the building blocks. It's easy to remember. For instance, VOTE. V stands for volume, and then O for opening, T for tone, and E for expression. And then per letter, you can break down the speech and then give it structure. A very good one. And I've seen really some of the best evaluators use this method. And then using metaphors, like Naomi said, like the diamond. But I've also heard evaluators using the analogy of a painting, like, oh, your speech is a beautiful work of art. Add some colors by doing this, and it's a wonderful piece of artwork. So these kind of metaphors give it a different kind of richness and flavor and variety again. And it just makes the evaluation feel different compared to others. So these are some advanced levels. There are more out there. Feel free to browse around, but these are the two that also stood out to me. And then let's go to the next slide. Thank you. So to summarize again, echoing what Naomi said, a good evaluation is an absolute gift for the speaker. And you will improve every time, because we are all born listeners. We are always listening. And so there's never a thing like, oh, I'm not good enough to judge. No, everyone can listen and has judgment. It's just getting more comfortable to bring it in a structured way. Master the basics first and then explore the advanced styles. And we learn by doing. In your own club, you can do it in a safe space. But really, what I learned the most is going to other clubs and seeing the most talented other speakers doing their thing. And that's how you accumulate all the building blocks to build your own style of evaluation. So visit other clubs, visit contests and beyond, and really enjoy the process and keep practicing. And I believe with that, I've also arrived at the end of my part. Is that correct, Mustika or MJ? I think so, right? So yeah, with that, we can open up the space for the Q&As, right?
Perfect. Thank you both for sharing your insights. So I see we have some questions in the chat. The first one was from Flory, I believe. Should the GE also give feedback to evaluators? I believe this was addressed. Flory, do you think that your question was addressed, or do you have any follow-up question on this?
Yeah, no, all clear here. Thanks.
Okay, great. And the next question was from Lena. What if the GE wants to share the missed points with the speakers that the evaluators did not cover? Is this still possible? Would you like to answer that question, Naomi? or Jenny?
Naomi?
Yeah, sure. So I just wanted to say that anybody can give feedback to the speakers. So I would say that if the GE wants to pass on feedback to the speakers, they can do so after the meeting as any other member would. So by writing feedback or going to them. But the reason for that is that you have 5 precious minutes on stage as a GE, or however much time you have. And since the speakers have already been given feedback, I think that if there is missed feedback that you want to give to the speaker, then you need to address the evaluator for not evaluating or not adding that flavor. So for example, if a speaker, for example, you felt went very fast and the evaluator did not mention that, then take the time during your evaluation to mention to the evaluator that they should have commented, that they could have commented on the speaker's speed. And that's how I would do it, rather than addressing the speaker directly, because it's not your role and you have very precious minutes on stage. So you really want to give that feedback to the evaluator if you think they missed something.
Great. Thank you, Naomi. I hope that answered your question, Lena. And the next question is from myself. Sometimes I see very experienced speakers doing their speech and I'm just blown away by their speech. So if I were to evaluate that person, I wouldn't have any comments on areas of improvement. Do you have any tips on how to handle that kind of evaluations? I'm happy if either of you can answer this.
I'll just say one thing before I pass it to Jenny, because I'm very curious what she has to say, especially doing a contest speech. It's very difficult. Sometimes you have a very good speaker, for example. It can be difficult. But I just wanted to focus on this part that you said you don't notice any areas of improvement. And in your question, you said sometimes a speech is almost perfect. A speech is not about perfection. It's about impact. And there's always room to create more impact. So if you think that a speaker has done an exceptional job and maybe there aren't areas where they should improve as a speaker, you can always comment on how the speech could be more impactful in order to achieve the goal. So for example, I can tell you that if we had to watch Sabyasachi Sengupta's speech that won the world championship, we will all find ways that we can see that we can add to how it does impact, because really speeches are like performance art. There's no such thing as perfect art. There's impactful art, and art can be even more impactful if you look at it. It's like we could all look at the Mona Lisa with a critical eye, even though it's a great piece of art. So just think about it like that. That's my opinion.
Thank you. That's been really helpful insight. Jenny, do you have any comments on that?
Well, I had it when I was actually listening to Naomi's speech. I thought, how can it possibly be improved? But then, indeed, it's just listening with your critical ear, and maybe it's just a small thing. And just a quick one. I remember the first time I saw Naomi, my jaw just dropped. I'm like, she's so good. And, but yeah, I agree with Naomi. I think there's always something you think for more impact, but also if you're genuinely blown away, also say that, like, Naomi, you were just fantastic. Yeah, sometimes some speakers are very good, but I agree with Naomi. It's sometimes very hard, but if there's something you think, okay, this is good for the impact, just say it. But if you're genuinely super excited, also say that. Yeah.
Perfect. Thank you, Jenny. Okay, the next question is from Jay, something similar to what I asked. What if you've been assigned to evaluate a speaker who is more advanced in the pathways than you are?
I remember I freshly started at the other club, and I had to evaluate someone who has been 7 years with the club, and I just joined like a few months. But I did notice that he had a certain way of speaking, which was always a bit nonchalant. So I said, like, dear member, I love your way of speaking, but there's always a certain nonchalance in you. What would happen if you change your tone a bit? And that was exactly the area of impact that I could just tackle. And he really appreciated it because he said to me, I love it because you dare to speak to me with a big stick and be critical with me. And also the best because they appreciate fresh feedback from younger or newer members. So also see that they are also getting some kind of newness from you as a new member. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely agree. The only thing I was going to add is that when we go out into the real world, there are people don't know what pathways are. They don't know what Toastmasters is. At the end of the day, no matter where you are in your pathway, you want to have impact when you speak to a crowd. So everyone's opinion matters. So I just echo what Jenny said. Whether you're still fresh in the club or not, sometimes people who are new to the club also, they don't pick up on these Toastmasters bad habits. Sometimes you can tell that a Toastmaster speech is a Toastmaster speech. Some people have just been doing it too long. So just be daring, like MJ said in the comment, and just give your real and honest opinion, and they will appreciate it.
Great, thank you both. Last question in the chat is from Shubham. How to listen with our full being? I find that to be the toughest part. Are there any frameworks, tips and tricks or practices that one can follow? ESP? I don't know what that means. The beginner level evaluator.
I love this question, Subham, and I listening with your whole being is exactly not using any frameworks. It sounds counterintuitive, but really just sit there, even close your eyes, and really have dialogue with yourself, like what am I truly feeling? Because with your whole being is exactly not only listening to your mind that needs frameworks, right? It's really listening with your heart. Being, yeah, that's how I would explain it. I hope this helps, Subham. Yeah,
It does. Yeah, it
Yeah.
does. Thank you.
Emmett, any comments from your side, Naomi, on this?
No, I fully agree. Listening with everything, and also beyond just what you see, what you felt. So I fully agree with Jenny.
Perfect, thank you. Any other questions, any burning questions from anyone before we wrap up?
I want to share one remark. I remember I had an onboarding call with one of the members. That member was indeed a bit nervous, like, oh, I'm so scared to give an evaluation. And I remember what I said to her with full conviction, you're always qualified to give an evaluation, no matter if you are just starting day one or 10 years in the club, always qualified.
Thanks, Jenny. So Nali, I see that you turn on your microphone. Do you have a question?
Yeah, well, I do, but I'm a little hesitant, so I'm still going to ask. Please don't judge me. Well, what happens with me that when I am nervous, I tend to miss parts of speeches. So the question is, how do you evaluate when you miss parts of the speeches because just off your nose? Do you clearly tell that to the speaker that I'm sorry, I just heard that part, or what do you do?
I'm sorry. So if I understood correctly, you're saying, what if you like zoned off at some point of the
Yeah,
speech, or
exactly,
yeah,
exactly, yes.
I would say that yeah, absolutely. I would admit that, but it happens definitely. I would say that two things. First of all, evaluation is really a test of active listening. So you really just want to put your notes down, be fully in the speech. But if you happen to miss a part, I would say, first of all, you can say that you missed it, apologize deeply, and maybe you want to have the speaker, for example, send you a recording, or you want to have the speaker encourage the speaker to reach out to you after or send you a recording of the speech so that you can give them a full evaluation. I don't think there's anything else you can do in that case.
Okay, perfect.
Jenny?
Thank you.
I remember what I also did in the beginning was afterwards when I was home, I took the time and actually sent a WhatsApp written evaluation back to the speaker, and they actually loved it. So there are always opportunities to reconnect with the speaker and have a quick with each other.
Oh, I also thought of this. Actually, once I did a speech and somebody said to me, my evaluator said, there was this part of the speech where I zoned off. And I think it's because actually you need to edit it out. It just doesn't have any impact and it made me kind of bored. So just remove it. So because it could be if you're not grabbing the audience attention, they're gonna zone out. It's really helpful to let them know that that happened to you and why.
Okay. Okay.
Too honest. Maybe you can say it in a nice way. No, don't say you made me zone off. You can say this part of the speech, I would encourage you to change it or maybe remove it because I lost some attention during that part. You can be diplomatic in your delivery.
Great answer. Thank you.
Okay.
We have one more.
Thank you.
We have one more question from Joanna. Which feedback have you received that made the biggest impact on your speaking trajectory? That's a good one.
Jenny, do you want to answer first? Because I know you.
Yeah, because yeah, actually one that also hurt me, because it was in the beginning, and one person came to me. He said, "Jenny, can you try to be more natural? Because maybe I was trying to perform too much in my speeches," and he said when you're too much under pressure, you try to perform too much. Remove that, come as yourself. And later, when I was much more comfortable and I was more my natural self, he said, I love this more. You're so natural and I can connect with you. So that was really authentic feedback. That was a bit painful, but actually very honest feedback. Yeah.
I think for me, I'll really reiterate what I said in the beginning of the workshop, which was the first speech that I did. I'm really expressive. You'll see, probably you're tired of seeing my hands. It's just the way that I am. I really use my hands a lot. I walk a lot. I move. And so the speaker said, don't change what you naturally have. Just learn to do things with intention. So instead of me just doing a lot of this, I tried to use my hands to demonstrate what I'm saying. So it was really an effective way to harness what I already naturally have, but to do it with intention, even when I'm moving on the stage. She said, if you want to move, practice where you want to move and when you want to move for impact rather than just to release nervous energy. So really appreciated that feedback. And sometimes people are not as expressive or they are more comfortable being stood. You need to also identify, this is also a big part of leadership, right? Identifying what are people's natural inclinations, where are they naturally comfortable, and using that as a foundation to have them have more impact, because the way I do a speech is not the way you're going to do a speech. And so for me, that was really impactful feedback and made me feel very seen. Yeah, I saw Jenny had to drop.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Naomi. Any other burning questions before we wrap it up for tonight? Okay. I guess that was all the questions. We still have one more session this Thursday. So if you want to join again, the session will be led by Natasha and Jenny. So you're more than welcome to join the second session. And thank you again, Naomi. And unfortunately, Jenny has just left, but thank you to both for sharing your insights. And also big thank you to Mustika for taking care of all the logistics and all that, and also to Judy for coming up with these initiatives. I hope that you are feeling more confident to start doing your evaluations. All right, with that being said, thank you again, and I wish you all a good evening.
Thank you so much. Thank you, MJ, for this